the debt is growing. If it grows too much, in the end, this is an amount that will have to be written off. You notice the trend. Eskom's one gets written off, Transnet's one gets written off, PMTE's one will get written off. When stuff is written off like this, it is taxpayers' money that is gone, and it was not used for what it was supposed to be used. We have to be clear about this. This is irresponsibility. I always say to people when I see this, Section 217 of the Constitution says you must money in this type of way. It speaks of fairness and it speaks of value for money. You cannot do this. It's unconstitutional, and somewhere along the line government is going to be in trouble with this type of thing. So the function of leasing, collecting accommodation related and maintenance costs from is not taking place. And so its debt grows. It keeps having to go to an overdraft in order to have an operation, to be able to operate. Now, what we say here is that it requires, this department and the PMTE needs legislation similar to what the amendment to the Auditor General's Act was made, where it said the Auditor General is now able to step in and force accounting officers, hold them accountable for monies that's spent irregularly. So this department and this PMTE requires a similar piece of legislation. In this case, not regulation, it's not going to help. It needs a law. And we've said for a number of years now, this law should be the Public Works Bill, where this department and this PMTE gets teeth, where it's able to say to a sister department, the DG of that department, you're the accounting officer, pay. If you don't pay within such an amount of months, there's a fine or something like that. It must get teeth. The other aspect that's important to note around the PMTE is the fact that the PMTE, being in a position to collect user charges and providing specialist property and construction management services to government departments. If you go to a court, every court is managed by money from this PMTE. Correctional services, police, all of them. And if you go there and it does not look good, then you must know it is PMTE that the money is spent, but PMTE itself is not standing there inspecting to make certain that the standards that the ministerial part, the department's policy regulating part is done properly. That's a very serious thing, where if money is allocated, you must make certain that it can be inspected and checked on and monitored. And checking and monitoring is all about consequence management. But the other aspect about the PMTE is it holds huge property value of government. That is held in the immovable asset register, which we will deal with just now and refer to just now. The full operationalization of the PMTE will come to effect only if that value is traded in a market, in the property market, so that the PMTE does not take so much money from the fiscus. We do not have to allocate so much money to the PMTE. The PMTE can fund itself. And it needs to move to that in that direction. Treasury has made this type of intervention a number of times, but there is not sufficient movement in this regard. And we say here that from 2014-15 to 19-20, the Portfolio Committee referred to the fact that this was needed. And of course, this committee, in its legacy report, I'm certain will also have a reference to this aspect. Government Immovable Asset registers, the Government Immovable Asset Act, GIAMA, I think it's a 2009 act. This act, 2007. This act speaks of user immovable asset management plans and custodian immovable asset management maintenance plans. It's I think it's management, not maintenance. But in any case, the thing is, you cannot as a user, be inside a building and not know your responsibilities? There's maintenance to be done by the user, but then the custodian, which is PMTE/DPWI, it also has a duty. Now, we know from our oversight visits and sister committees, if you look at their reports, if you look at Correctional Services report, you look at SAP's, the Portfolio Committee on Police's report, and Correctional Services, you'll notice that they're not pleased with the service that they are getting. And it means that GIAMA is not fully implemented by the department. We see in the APP that there's reference to a number of UIAMP and CIAMPs that will be developed as tools to keep track of the conditions of properties, but we do not see evidence of it on the ground. PMTE Registry Services is a very important branch. It manages the immovable asset register and coordinates the UIMs and CIMs. And the problem in this registry services branch is, and yeah, I'm referring to the matter I referred to earlier on compensation on employees. And we can understand this. This branch will be filled with valuers, property valuers, and other professional built environment professionals that will be inside this department. We know that this branch is not well enough staffed with experienced built environment professionals. And this is part of the reasons why we struggle with this immovable asset management, immovable asset register, as well as the user and custodian immovable asset management plans. It's a competitive terrain, very competitive out there. These people, I saw an advert recently for project managers and quantity surveyors. The UK and Australia is asking our people to come over. So you can see that this department is actually competing internationally for stuff. And we can see that the result in some of the weaknesses of the department. The other one that's important is real estate investment services. And as I said, it's a property trading entity, but the investment services aspect of it is not functioning. Again, it's an issue of staff that is not there, and the PMTE has not completed its work. I think in the draft program for this term, we included, and we have it in this report as a draft recommendation that the committee will consider. We included for this branch to come to us and show us how the immovable asset register works. Do a demonstration for us, so that the Honourable Mashele, he actually said to them, I want to know where these projects are. You may recall, I want to know where they are in this country. Who works on them? Who does not work on them? Who's the subcontractors? So with this type of thing, this is immovable asset, but we're saying that even with construction project management, that's the type of request that we have. This is the PMTE budget on 25, with Inez's analysis that follows per program and per sub-program. And here we are at matters raised during deliberations. Now, what we did here was to take a transcript of the deliberations as members were speaking, and we grouped them into themes. And after the themes, we then we drafted a recommendation per sub-year's financial annual report. The other issue that was raised in this matter about budget, when something is bought, you need to get value for money for it. And we know that there was funds used to purchase Archibus and Sage. They were bought together as the enterprise renewal program. Yet, We hear every single year that sorry, it's spam. I don't understand how it works, that they're able to come through even though my sound is off. I'm going to switch this off. So, Chair, it's purchased, but year on year we hear that there's still modules to be rolled out. Now, the modules are the training aspect. So you buy the software, but then the staff need to be trained. Supply chain management need to be trained on this. Archibus is specific for property management and maintenance purposes. And it fits beautifully within Sage, the supply chain management side. And it seems like the Sage purchase has made a difference. But Archibus, we're not happy with, and therefore the immovable asset register, we heard one year it was still on Excel, and it had to be moved into Archibus. So that recommendation is there, as I referred to earlier on, that will refer to the immovable asset register, and that they must come and present and show us how it works. Again, with the budget, members were very displeased with construction management, construction project management, and referred to projects such as Telkom Towers that remains incomplete. Some floors were incomplete, and members could not go inside there. The department was very difficult. They didn't comply and assist members to actually go see every single thing that had to be done. So the oversight work was curtailed. And then, of course, money being spent on legislative work where it gets outsourced, while we do have staff in Program 4 that's supposed to be able to do it, and recommendations in this regard will cover stuff like that. Incomplete legislation, the Public Works Bill we refer to. We refer to the reconfigured IDT bill. We don't know what that bill looks like, but we heard for many years in a row about the IDT being reconfigured, until, of course, in one administration we heard the IDT is now no longer there, it's being dissolved. This committee strongly said no to such an attempt, and IDT is back, but we do not know how far Government Technical Advisory Service, Centre, GTAC, is with reconfiguring and restructuring the IDT. But that will be a bill. We also referred to the need for a Land Disposal Act. The Act in DG actually, in the deliberations, referred to that, so that the PMTE could streamline the process of disposing immovable assets when needed. We've got lots of property that is in such a bad state that it doesn't make sense financially to refurbish it. It makes sense to sell it with the land and then use the profit to purchase new property instead. The CBE and CIDB Amendment Acts, not acts, it should be Amendment Acts. I'm just inserting amendment there. Those are amendments. In the case of the CIDB, it's an amendment that would ensure that we can get the lower registered contractors, so there's a strategy for them to graduate further up through the middle to the top. We find currently that a lot is situated in the middle, with even more on grade 1 and 2, where the companies are actually not even active, but it's just blocking there and there's no movement on it. So that, in the case of the CIDB, is the amendment. CBE's amendment is also needed, and we listen to them on that matter.
May I just stop you on that page? Because just above it's the committee urged the DPW and PMTE to improve on the negative effect, not affect.
I don't know where we are now.
Page 30.
Page 30.
Just before reconfigured IDT bill.
Hold on. I can't see it.
It's just a typo.
I can't see it. I'll sort it out. I'll give it a read again before we send it for publication. So the next one is the PMTE, and reference to that growing overdraft, debt, and very weak property maintenance. And we know that the member is not with us. ACDP.
Going through.
Honourable Thring always referred to, or in this deliberation referred specifically to this matter of ad hoc maintenance rather than scheduled. So that is something that we gave attention to, and we referred to it here, and there is a recommendation to that effect. The department claims, PMTE claims, that it's hamstrung to maintain properties in a planned rather than ad hoc manner, because client departments don't pay accommodation user charge on time. Of course, we as a committee say, if they don't pay on time, what should you do? Go get your money, which is why we propagate a public works bill that gives teeth. The next one is lack of PMTE debt collection, which is the same one as at the top. So I'm not going to speak about that. I referred to that a few times. But what we say is neither the APP nor the officials refer to a debt collection strategy that would enable the PMTE to recover fees that client departments owe. They are unable to recover funds, and that's just not how it should be. Lease management. The Minister wanted leasing of private properties for accommodation to be reduced as part of the efforts to make government more self-sufficient and cut unnecessary spending. Officials in the leasing unit of the department we were told that they were giving attention to the matter. The APP, however, does not mention a strategy in this regard. The officials refer to it when members ask questions about it, but we don't see any evidence of it in their strategy. And we know that if there's no evidence of that, then there's no budgeting for it, and nobody is going to do it. Performance indicators out of sync. Honourable Siwisa referred to this, and I think Honourable Mashele as well, I'm not certain. But yes, he did, around that 109 projects. Their explanation was that they have multi-year contracts for budget items such as gardening and cleaning and repairs. This is for the gardens and the courts and home affairs, police stations, etc. The problem, they say, is that the contractual obligations stretching over 3 years are then not linked to a performance indicator in one of the years, in these annual performance plans. Members, that type of thing is a neither here nor there type of excuse. They must make certain that it's then in an APP and that they contract differently. You don't contract for 3 years and then you can't translate that back to your APP in a performance indicator, and then you're unable to report properly to the committee. That's just, sorry, but it's bad planning. That's the example that was made, and members were very clear about the need for this APP, for every APP, to